Here's something nobody wants to admit. For most of human history, perfume existed because people smelled absolutely terrible. We're not talking a little sweaty after the gym. We're talking medieval-level funk where bathing was considered medically dangerous, sewage ran through the streets, and your best option for smelling decent was rubbing yourself with flowers, animal secretions, and whatever else might mask the fact that you hadn't properly washed in 6 months. Perfume wasn't luxury, it was survival. A desperate attempt to not smell like the plague you were probably carrying.
There's a booming new market shaking up Australia's beauty scene. Copycat scents imitating designer brands are flooding the market, offering big savings for shoppers while treading a fine legal line.
The ancient Egyptians were the first to really perfect this art around 3000 BCE. Cleopatra allegedly used 15 different fragrances and had an entire room in her palace dedicated to perfume production. But here's what the history books don't emphasize. These perfumes were made from some genuinely disturbing ingredients. Crushed beetles for red dye. Ambergris, which is literally whale vomit that's been floating in the ocean for years. Musk from the glands of deer that had to be killed to extract it. Civet oil from the anal glands of civet cats. Yes, people were rubbing cat butt secretions on their necks and calling it luxury. The Romans took it even further. They didn't just wear perfume, they bathed in it, sprayed it on their pets, scented their furniture, and even released perfumed doves at parties that would fly around spreading fragrance. The Emperor Nero allegedly spent the equivalent of $100,000 in today's money on rose petals for a single banquet. Meanwhile, the people actually making these perfumes were slaves working with toxic materials that probably gave them respiratory diseases. But sure, let's focus on how elegant it all was. Then the Black Death hit Europe in the 1340s, and perfume went from vanity item to supposed medical necessity. Doctors genuinely believed that bad smells caused disease, the miasma theory, so they prescribed perfume as medicine. Plague doctors wore those famous bird beak masks stuffed with aromatic herbs, thinking it would protect them. Spoiler alert, it didn't. But the perfume industry made an absolute killing, literally and figuratively selling protective fragrances to terrified people who were dying by the millions. The real explosion happened in the 16th century France when Catherine de' Medici brought her personal perfumer from Italy. Grasse, a small town in southern France, became the perfume capital of the world. But here's the part they don't put in the tourism brochures. Grasse was originally a leather tanning town, and leather tanning smells like death. The perfume industry started there specifically to mask the horrific stench of rotting animal hides. So the entire French perfume industry, all that elegance and sophistication, was literally built on covering up the smell of decomposing flesh. By the 17th and 18th centuries, European aristocrats were using so much perfume it was genuinely toxic. King Louis XV's court was called the Perfumed Court because he demanded a different fragrance every single day. Marie Antoinette had a personal perfumer who created custom scents, but nobody was bathing regularly. They thought water opened your pores to disease, so they were just layering perfume on top of body odor, creating these horrific olfactory combinations that probably cleared rooms. Then chemistry happened, and everything changed. In 1868, a chemist named William Perkin accidentally created the first synthetic fragrance while trying to synthesize quinine. Suddenly, you didn't need to kill whales or torture civet cats. You could make fragrances in a lab. This should have been revolutionary and ethical, but instead, the industry just used it to make perfume cheaper, while still charging luxury prices and lying about the ingredients. The 20th century turned perfume into pure marketing genius. In 1921, Coco Chanel launched Chanel No. 5, and it wasn't revolutionary because of the scent, it was revolutionary because of the branding. She was the first to put a designer's name on a perfume bottle and market it as an extension of fashion. The perfume itself, a synthetic aldehyde that smelled like nothing in nature, but she convinced women that wearing it made them sophisticated, modern, and French. Marilyn Monroe said she wore nothing to bed but Chanel No. 5, and that single quote probably sold $1 billion worth of perfume. Every designer immediately copied the strategy. Dior, Givenchy, Yves Saint Laurent. Suddenly everyone had a signature fragrance. The perfume wasn't the product anymore. The fantasy was the product. You weren't buying a smell. You were buying the idea that you could be as elegant as Audrey Hepburn or as seductive as Elizabeth Taylor. The actual liquid in the bottle cost maybe $3 to produce, but they'd charge $150 because of the story they told. By the 1980s and 90s, celebrity fragrances exploded. Elizabeth Taylor's White Diamonds made over $1.5 billion. Every celebrity with a declining career launched a perfume. The fragrances were almost always made by the same three corporations using the same basic formulas, just with different bottles and marketing campaigns. You weren't buying Britney Spears' creative vision, you were buying a generic floral scent that 47 other celebrities also created. The ingredient lists became increasingly disturbing. Phthalates, which are linked to hormone disruption, synthetic musks that accumulate in body fat, chemicals that are literally banned in other products but perfectly legal in fragrances because the industry successfully lobbied to keep their formulas secret under trade secret protections. You have no idea what you're actually spraying on your body, and the companies like it that way. The markup is absolutely insane. A bottle of designer perfume that retails for $150 contains maybe $5 worth of ingredients. The fancy bottle costs more than what's inside it. You're paying for advertising, for the brand name, for the illusion of luxury. The perfume industry spends more on marketing than on the actual product, which tells you everything you need to know about what they think they're really selling. And the environmental impact? Catastrophic. Perfume production requires massive amounts of flowers. It takes 10,000 jasmine flowers to produce 1 kilogram of jasmine absolute. The synthetic ingredients are petroleum-based. The bottles are rarely recyclable. The industry goes through millions of gallons of alcohol annually, but they market it all as natural, pure, and elegant while destroying ecosystems and contributing to climate change. By 2025, the perfume industry is worth over $50 billion globally, and it's built almost entirely on deception. Natural fragrances that are 95% synthetic. Luxury perfumes made in the same factories as drugstore brands. Exclusive scents that smell identical to 20 other fragrances because they're all using the same aroma chemicals from the same suppliers. The entire industry is smoke and mirrors, except the smoke is probably giving you allergies and the mirrors are reflecting back a version of yourself that doesn't actually exist. Social media made it worse. Influencers get paid to promote fragrances they've never smelled. Fragrance communities on Reddit and YouTube have created an entire subculture of people who own 300 bottles of perfume and can't possibly wear them all. TikTok is full of videos claiming certain scents will make you irresistible, as if human attraction is just a matter of smelling like synthetic vanilla and wood notes. The psychology is actually pretty dark. The perfume industry has convinced us that our natural smell is offensive, that we need to mask it with chemicals, and that the right fragrance will transform our lives. It's manufactured insecurity sold as empowerment. You're not good enough as you are. You need to smell like a laboratory's interpretation of what sexy or sophisticated should be. Looking at the current landscape, perfume in 2025 represents everything wrong with consumer culture. It's overpriced, underregulated, environmentally destructive, and sold through pure fantasy and manipulation. The industry has successfully convinced billions of people to spray themselves with secret chemical formulas multiple times a day, and we just accept it as normal. And what's truly fascinating is how perfume reveals our deepest insecurities about our bodies, our status, and our identities. We're still doing what medieval peasants did, trying to mask our humanity with pleasant smells, except now we're paying $300 for the privilege and calling it self-care. Whether you love perfume or think the whole industry is a scam, you have to admit it sparked some uncomfortable questions about what we're willing to put on our bodies, how much we'll pay for illusion, and why we're so desperate to smell like anything other than ourselves. And honestly, that's a lot darker than you'd expect from something that's basically just fancy smelling chemicals in a pretty bottle.